sometimes nicknamed Stick, like the Boss 302. The story has it that the designer of this car, whose name was Larry Shinoda, was asked about this project during development, and at the time it was still a secret. So he just responded with, he was working on the Boss's car, hence the name Boss, and it's stuck, and it's fitting, because this car is pretty boss.
The Boss 302 Mustang is an extremely popular car, not only for Mustang fans, but for muscle car fans in general. And one of the reasons is because this is the street-going version of the Trans Am race car that Ford was obligated to sell to the public to make the Mustang platform legal for Trans Am racing. The Boss 302 debuted in 1969 and was mildly revised for 1970, and the most noticeable change on our car is that it is painted in code T, which is candy apple red, a brand new color for the Boss for 1970. The 1969 cars only came in 4 colors, but Ford expanded that to more than 16 colors for 1970, which included a special color option as well. And they made just over 7,000 Boss 302s in the 1970 model year, up from just 1,628 in 1969. And just over 500 of those were painted red for 1970.
Regular viewers of Muscle Car of the Week know that we've featured several different Boss 302s from the brothers' collection, and for good reason. These cars have a lot to offer, starting with the way they look. They've got a blacked out tailpan and wing, blacked out louvers. There's a really cool reflective stripe on the side. Of course, they've got the sport mirrors, the shaker hood scoop.
And this is a functioning air intake system. But the Boss cars featured argent striping on the top rib reliefs, whereas on some of the other shaker-equipped Mustangs, the scoop was entirely painted black.
They ride on special suspension with disc brakes, Magnum 500 wheels,
with Goodyear Polyglass GT tires to help improve the handling as well. The GT on a Polyglass tire indicates that these are 60 series aspect sidewall tires, whereas the regular Polyglass with no GT was a 70 series.
And a lowered stance, which was all designed to give this car cornering ability as well as high-speed performance.
Another small detail is the elimination of the quarter panel scoops that are normally found right behind the door handles. Those scoops were non-functional, so designer Larry Shinoda removed them from the Boss 302 design. The Boss 302 also has less bright trim than the fancier Mustang Mach-1 package or even some of the base model Mustangs. But the Boss wasn't just an appearance package. The 302 engine was different from the typical 302 in the fact that it had a higher nickel content block for better strength. The crankshaft was held in place with 4-bolt main caps, and a quick identifier of a Boss block are screw-in type freeze plugs rather than the press-in pieces found on standard 302s. Ford claimed the power output to be 290 horsepower at 5,200 RPM, but these engines were designed to live at higher RPM and featured a new cylinder head design to flow more air. Some of the internal parts were carried over from the Hypo 289 engine, like the connecting rods, but the crankshaft was a cross-drilled forged unit for better strength and durability. The camshaft was a solid lifter design with 0.477 inches of lift and 290 degrees of total duration, which was designed to pull a lot of air through those large valve Cleveland-style heads. The valve size actually were reduced in some of the later 1970 cars to aid in lower RPM street driving manners. These cars had domed pistons, which yielded a 10.5-to-1 compression ratio, and the fuel mix was sent through a huge Holley 780 4-barrel carb and an aluminum intake manifold, and it was lit off by a dual-point distributor. Many of these cars featured a mechanical rev limiter to keep them alive on the street. And it kind of seems ironic on a race-inspired car, but these engines also featured a new smog control system installed from the factory. And as you can imagine, most of these systems were removed but properly restored cars like this one have to feature all the correct smog parts to maintain accuracy. This car features a 391 rear gear and a 4-speed manual transmission, and it was capable of 0 to 60 times in the high 6-second range and quarter-mile times in the mid-14s. It wasn't the fastest Mustang on the drag strip, but those were approaching big block numbers, and this was churned out by a little 302. And after all, the Boss was designed for the road course and not necessarily the drag strip. Inside, you won't find many luxury amenities in a 70 Boss 302, but the bucket seats were supportive, and the driver sat low in the chassis, making it a little difficult to see out of the sloped sports roof rear window, but it is one of the most comfortable muscle car cockpits we think were ever built. For 1970, the production numbers increased dramatically on the Boss 302, and they made just over 7,000 Boss 302s in the 1970 model year, up from just 1,628 in 1969. And just over 500 of those were painted red.
It's pretty cool that the nickname for this car ended up being its actual official name in the Boss 302. If you like these cars, we do have more videos of them on our website at musclecaroftheweek.com. And of course, you can share these videos with all of your friends on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss the next episode of Muscle Car of the Week.